Here we go. We are live. And we knock that guy away. We hit, oops, record. Yay, this is great. Okay, just my double check. I just like to double check it. I know it says we are, but I just want to double check that we are. There we are, baby.
Oh,
okay, it's happening.
hi.
Are you ready?
Yes, ready.
I'm so excited. Yay. Hey, do you realize, Jan Lee, you are the final guest of 2023.
There you go. Nice.
when I thought about who can I bring to our listeners, at least on the live, because we edit this for the podcast. It'll come out in my season 2 for 2024. However, for our live listeners today, I want to share somebody that just has this story of overcoming so many things. And I honestly couldn't think of a better person that would touch people's hearts than you.
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
You're amazing.
Yes,
You're amazing.
You.
You're amazing. And it's been quite a year for you.
Yes.
In so many ways. And so I'm really excited to share Jan Lee with the world today. So let me just start by welcoming Jan Lee to the show. Welcome, Jan.
Hi. Yes. Hi, eyes together forever.
Yes, hi, eyes together forever. Yeah, we love people. So I'm really excited. This has been a really big year for you. And we'll get to that in a minute. But I like to start by just like, who's Jan Lee? I'd love to know a little bit of your story. Like, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Because you have a very unique story. And so let's just start with who you are.
Okay. I actually have 2 thoughts on who I am. At a very identity level, I was born and raised in the Philippines, came to America about almost 20 years now. And I'm a mom of 3 with 4 dogs and an amazing husband. And I'm also running 2 businesses, the sales side, the Lee Real Estate Group, and also the J2 Property Management. So I'm building 2 businesses at the moment. And then on the other side of that is that I feel like I'm really a light to the world. Like, I feel like, yeah.
I feel like you are a light to the world. Talk more about that.
Yeah, I just feel like, many people are like, sometimes they don't, like, they get into their challenges.
Yeah.
And I'm the person that says it's going to be okay. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true, and people get stuck there. And honestly, you have a lot of things in your life that you could have gotten stuck there.
Yeah. Like,
and you didn't.
Right now. Like, I shouldn't even be here right now. Based on where I came from, in the Philippines.
Yeah. You actually should be here.
No.
Like, here, I know what you're saying.
Like, as far as like overcoming,
nothing was
I
easy.
Shouldn't be even.
Let's talk about
here.
that.
Okay,
Let's talk about that. Tell us more.
So, my dad left when I was 6 years old in the Philippines. Yes, and my mom raised us, to my sister and myself.
Was she younger or older?
Younger. As a single mother. And so when my dad left, the whole world was on her shoulder. And so she, in the NLP world, there's like, people are, they do things based on what's real for them. And so when my dad left, I don't know what it was, but a lot of things that I did was never enough for her. And so she was pretty mean, like really mean to me. And
so you got the brunt of a lot of her frustration of him leaving, and
correct.
She displaced that on you.
That's
and hard as a kid.
And then when I was growing up, we're always brought with choices in life, right? And so, like, I had friends that got pregnant and got married. I could have gone that way
really early, probably, right?
Exactly.
Really young.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
So
because you made different choices.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, I could have chosen to do drugs. I have friends that, a good friend of mine that was doing drugs, and she would tell me, this is what we do. Why don't you join us? And I'm like, no, one, I'm scared of my mom. She's going to beat me. And the second thing is, I just didn't feel like I have the need to do drugs.
Were you in a very poverty environment? Was it very poor the way you grew up? grew up?
Yes, it's very poor. Like, in fact, my first memory of my home was a cardboard put together outside of somebody's house. We were in kind of like their kitchen area, and so we were just
Inside
living there,
somebody's house?
no,
Yeah. Oh,
outside.
outside of their
And
house.
you put
Yeah, like
cardboard.
cardboard up and like, oh
Yes,
wow.
exactly. And I remember my dad was he used to fix umbrellas, because umbrellas a big thing in the Philippines. And so, they don't have money
Yeah.
to repair it. So he would
Yeah.
fix that. And shoes, like he would fix shoes, and that's not a lot of income at all.
Exactly. And that's
Mhm.
before he left, right?
Yeah.
And then he left. And so, and I think that when you grow up in a third world country where it's, number one, you have a lot of odds against you. And that's why I really want to stake on time here, because people have reasons why they choose things they choose. They blame it on their external circumstances,
Mhm.
why they do one thing or another. And everything we do is a choice. And I don't judge them for any of that. So please hear me. Whatever your past is your past. However, today you have a choice.
Mhm.
Today you have a choice. Okay. And so don't get stuck in the whatever situation you're in. That's the point of it, is don't get stuck, because you have a choice today. So if you made other choices before, it's never too late. That's the hope, and that's the you being the light. So here you are growing up, and what I mean by that and why I bring that up is a lot of times when we grow up in an environment that's, a lot of poverty and hardship, and you're feeling a lot of stress at home, we make choices for survival. And so which is, you could have gone down the drug lane. There are many ways you could have gone, and you didn't. And you're standing here today in my office. So let's go. So how did you do that? How did you get from there to here? So let's keep going on your journey.
So as I reflect on that journey, I never really realized until recently that I was actually surviving. And so, when I was in that situation, all I was focusing is that moment. So like if I get beaten up right now, I don't walk around and carry that load. So okay, that's done.
Physically getting beaten up?
Yeah, like physically. Yeah, exactly.
At home or on the streets?
Well, my hope is that I get into the house so that my crush won't see me getting beaten up. Yeah, but that's my hope. I just get into. I just, whenever I make a mistake per se, I just want to make sure that I get into the house so that nobody else will see what's going on inside that house. And so when you're in that situation, I think it's our instinct to survive. And so that's what I didn't realize I was just surviving. So when I came out of that situation, and myself and Paul, my husband, were talking about it, and he was pointing out to me, did you know that you've only have been surviving? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything different.
That's really emotional. And you think about, there's so many people we know in the world right now that are just surviving. There are so many people that are just surviving. And that's exactly why you're on today, because your story is going to motivate and inspire somebody who may, and you know what's sad about that is Jan, what people lose is their worthiness. When they're in an environment like that, they're surviving, they're in survival mode, they're getting beat up, abusive language, physically, all the things, right? And the sad thing is they start believing those words are true. And then that's a big challenge to come out of, is feeling that worthiness, right? And so I'm so happy you're sharing that. How did you get through that? What happened then? So you're growing up in this environment, it's very hostile. What happened when you started getting like towards your adult years?
I just didn't see myself growing up in getting old in the Philippines. I just always felt like I can do more. Like there's always something that, I can do more. And if people really pay attention, there's going to be like this experience that you had either when you were a child or right now when you were growing up, where you're already grown up, that kind of play a major role in your life and how you do things. And one of them for me was, for example, when I was walking on the street with my mother and I fell, and keep in mind, she wasn't the lovey mother, right? So instead of
necessarily jumping to come to your aid.
So instead, she just looked at me and said, get up. You should get up. She didn't help. She didn't extend her arm. So that now when I think about it, every time I fall, I have to get up. Okay, that's one of the major
lessons.
things
Yeah,
that, you know,
yeah.
subconsciously how I live my life. And the other one also was, I was walking on the street in the Philippines, and I came across a birthday party of, you know, a neighbor. They were having a birthday party for their kid. I never had any balloons or no Barbie.
You never had birthdays, right?
Right. So my birthday would be, that's the time that I can actually have Coca-Cola and a cake. Yes.
Was on your birthday?
Yes, that's
okay,
my
so
birthday.
You could have Coca-Cola and birthday
Yes,
cake on your birthday.
yes,
okay.
on my birthday. And so I was walking and I happened to stop at this party, and they were having fun. They were like, you know, like just having games, and it's so fancy in my standard. And at that moment I was looking, because it's fenced. A lot of the houses in the Philippines are fenced, and I was outside the fence, and I looked
Looking
in
towards the party.
to the party. And subconsciously I have decided I will never gonna be that person that's gonna be outside the fence. I'm gonna be in that fence. I don't know how, but I'm gonna be there. So that's how I live my life right now. That's how you see me in front and center all the time, because I want to be in the field playing.
You okay. Wow, you are playing to win all the time. And now, by now, if my guests are wondering, my listeners are wondering why you're my guest, they now know why. I mean, you taught yourself this playing to win mindset, Jan, which is so beautiful. And to be a young, you know, how old were you when you had that moment?
Around 8.
Okay, so you're 8 years old. Imagine being 8 years old and you're like, I am never going to be on this side of that fence again. I'm going to create a different life for myself. This is going to be, and you made that choice though. That's incredible. And here's what I love about also that you have a playing to win mindset is when your mom said, get up when you would fall, and you learned, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? Like that is a gift, the way you turned it around, because you could either be a victim about it and say and think of all the terrible things, which those were terrible things. Honestly, she was not a great mother to you. And again, no judgment, but that will make an impression on life of how you deal with life. And instead you took it as, okay, so now when something happens to you, you have that in you that, you know, it takes other people years to figure that out, right? If it's up to me, it's up to me. Like, so you got to pick yourself up. And here's the thing, you know how we talk about the coffee bean, and we have this guy, I know, you know, we have Damon West coming to speak, and Damon West talks about the story when, you know, he got hooked on drugs and all the things, and he comes from this great family, all the things, like, look where you came from, right? And choices we make choices in our life. And he talked about when he was going into prison, right? And the guy gave him advice, said, hey, there's, you know, 3 things that can happen to you in prison. You can become, you know, you use the carrot, the egg, or the coffee bean.
Correct.
And the carrot, you put it in boiling water, what happens?
It gets soft.
Falls apart, all the things, loses all its consistency, right? What happens when the egg goes in?
You're gonna be hard outside, but you're liquid inside.
And then when it goes in the hot water, what happens though?
You change the color of the water.
No, the egg.
Oh, the egg becomes hard.
The egg becomes hard,
but
right?
then you're soft inside.
Yeah. Well, it takes that softness and it makes it hard. So like your heart gets hardened, but the coffee bean, that's like how you are. The coffee bean goes in the water, and what happens?
You change the color of the water.
Yeah. And the taste and the flavor and all the things, right? You make the water better by you being there.
Correct.
And so you growing up, I mean, whether it's prison or a neglected childhood and all the things, you have choices. And yet you chose to be like that light, like you say. I love that so much. Okay, so let's keep going on. How did you get out of there? Like, tell me more. What happened after that?
So in the Philippines, education is a really, really big deal, because people think that if you are educated, you're going to lift everything out of poverty, right?
Yeah.
And I never saw myself being in the Philippines. So even when I've married my first husband, I chatted with this guy. I was in the Philippines and he was here in the US.
Oh, okay.
And we were chatting. And, you know, I still had a choice then, because before you come to the US, they actually show you a picture or like a video of other women being abused in the US.
Wow.
You know, just kind of give it, not in a bad way, but just kind of giving you this could happen to you.
Right.
And
be careful who you marry.
Exactly. And that was a choice.
Boy, is that the truth?
Yeah. All right.
Sometimes, never mind, we won't go there.
It's already a long story, but
Exactly.
yes. So I had a choice too that I could. At the end of the day, it's trusting,
Yeah.
trusting that
That
like
you'd be okay.
that I'm
And taking a
gonna be
risk,
okay.
and that it was
Correct.
worth it. That you're deciding that the risk was worth, getting you out of there,
Mhm.
right? And so is that how you came to the States? Is that you got married?
Yes, I got
Okay.
married, and then outside of the
How old were you?
24,
Okay.
outside
You're
of
an
the
adult already.
US, you see movies and these pretty things, and he was like, "Oh, I'm poor," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, he's probably just kidding." And then I get here, I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is not how I expected it to be."
You were poor?
This is not
Like,
how I
wait.
expected it to be. Exactly. And so I ended up actually being the breadwinner for that household, my 3 kids. So I was raising 3 kids. I was working full time with the state of Texas. And then I'm also was building a property management business for this ex-husband on the sidelines. So I was always like doing something, just figuring things out.
Okay, so you come to a new country. You already spoke English, or did you have to learn?
Very heavy accent.
Okay.
And
That's
then
impressive.
very
Yep.
heavy accent. And so when I in my first job with the Sears, it was a telemarketing job. So people were not very nice because they were mad.
Mhm.
And so I had to change my name from Jeanette to Jan, because they're like, "Jeanette, where are you from? India?" And like they were
Wow.
kind of like that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to change that one. And also there was a situation where maybe it's just that they didn't understand so much. My coworkers were not very nice as far as like my accent. So then the way I thought about it is like, the only reason that you think you're better than me right now is because you speak English. And so I actually invested in a $400 speak English the American way.
Oh, okay.
And
Good
so I
for
did
you.
that.
Yeah. You know how
Yes.
much courage that takes to go to a country and learn a language? I mean, been there, done that in a totally different circumstance, but it takes so much courage. And the fact that people were so cruel, but yet your job that you're in was already a hard job for people that would be Native American
Mhm.
speakers, right? Because it sounded like you were dealing with like customer service and stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And
Right.
they were mad. Yeah.
And they were already mad.
Yeah, they were already mad.
So your accent or whatever, just give them another reason to be not so nice, which is not okay.
Exactly.
However, what a brutal learning for you of like how to really master a language.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, even though I can speak, the American language, I still want to keep
Yeah.
my roots.
Of
So,
course you
yeah.
do, as you should. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so what great training though for your language, and then how did you went from that to the state, or?
Yeah. So I
Okay.
went there to the state, and in the state of Texas, I've always like, okay, what's the next? Like,
Okay.
I work to get to where I need to be. And this is what my reflection was, just, preparing kind of for this talk, is like, so I wasn't promoted. I wanted to get promoted quicker
In the state.
because I
Okay.
learned everything
Yeah.
quicker. And what happened was, in my free time, I would study and learn about the policies and all that. And so when I in 6 months into the position, they were like, "You're ready for the next position."
Oh, nice.
But they have like certain minimum requirements of like being a caseworker for you to move to the next one.
Okay.
And so, so my reflection then right now is like, whenever an obstacle is getting in my way, I didn't even realize this, I just found another way. Like, I just get into this wall. I'm like, okay, now what? Where else can I go?
It
And I
doesn't
just,
stop you.
yeah, it doesn't. And so I just go this way and then eventually get to where I need to be.
Yeah.
And it might be a long journey, right? It might come long.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, because eventually you're going to get there.
That is such a powerful statement, because so many people want things on their timeline. And they think they're failing because that's not happening like when they're expecting it to happen. But sometimes life is not on the same timeline as you.
No.
And the more alignment you are with that, and okay, and things will surprise you. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Like the greatest things show up when you least expect it, right? And so when you have a no, it's just a not yet. Okay, what's the other way? And so you really learned that skill. I love that.
Yes.
Okay, what made you then leave the state?
So I was helping the ex-husband build a
So
business.
you're building this property management business,
Correct.
right?
And I was doing full time with the state of Texas.
Wow.
And he was making more money than myself. You know,
on the property management side?
Yes, and
Okay.
he's like part-time per se. So I was working full-time and he's kind of part-time in it, and he still made money, one. And then the second thing is like, you know, like I like people. So I don't want to be like in this four corners just doing not doing anything. And I think it was actually more like a spiritual moment where one day I just decided that I'm not gonna live this way anymore. Like I don't want to be here, because I see people, like I love the state people. They're very self-serving, like servant leaders.
Very service oriented.
Correct. Yet there will be emails that say, congratulations, 40 years with the state of Texas. And then I look and I think they're in the same boat. So I was like, I'm not going to be on that boat.
That's not your future.
Yeah.
That reminded you almost like being outside of the birthday party, right? Another moment like that, like, yeah, this is not it. This is not, I've not arrived to my greatness yet, right? You're on the way.
Yes.
Okay, so you saw how much money was happening on the opportunity side for being a business owner, touching real estate, and then did you start as a dual career? You got your license, or what happened?
Yeah, I did my license in 2008 and was still part-time there. And then when I quit in 2015, the marriage was, I didn't know what I didn't know. So, there were so many things.
This is the same guy you moved to the States for,
correct. Right? There's things that I wasn't aware of what I was doing because of my childhood trauma. And, so it was not like it was only him that was the problem. I was also the problem, right? Yeah. And this movie called The Secret Law of Attraction, I came across this movie and I watched it like probably 3 times. And then after that, I was like, okay, what is the meaning of life? And that's when I decided that I'm gonna like look into mindset. And like if they were saying that, what you think of, it's gonna happen, that's when I decided that, okay, if I can think that way, that's gonna happen. Then I just start reading books about mindset, and that's how I met Paul. Yeah.
You blushed when you, I blushed when you said that.
Yes. So.
That's so sweet. Okay, so that's powerful. So I love that. It's like the secret kind of thing, right? Correct. It's like the secret, that law of attraction and all the things. And there's a similar movie. Have you seen The Shift with Wayne Dyer?
Yes, I just finished it right now.
Isn't it amazing, right? I talked about them. Yes. It's amazing. I highly recommend any of our listeners to go watch The Shift. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Is that where you watched it?
It's an hour and something.
An hour and a half. It's Wayne Dyer, and he's talking about life's purpose and how it changes for women and men as they age.
Correct.
And like for you went from this survival, like this child growing up in a really tough environment, right? And you learned so many life skills through that. And the choices you made have led you to be the person you are today. And so then as you got here and you found kind of your voice and the things, and you start unraveling yourself, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother life to me. And honestly, one of the things you discovered, I think, is that you were in a really loveless marriage, and you didn't want that anymore. And that didn't end well either. I mean, I know we just kind of brushed into that we met Paul, but there was a whole like living in trash bags part of that story we didn't talk about. Do you want to go there?
We can touch a little bit on it. So when the divorce happened, I was under the impression that it's going to be smooth, where, okay, we're going to tell the kids, the divorce is, I think the reason is when you grow and you keep growing and the other person is not growing, you're not going to be in the same path anymore.
Much longer.
And so naturally you're going to be disconnected.
Yes.
And no matter how much, because remember, I grew up in a broken family. So I wanted so much to make that my family work, and that's why I stayed there for a while, because I wanted to fix it. But when you're growing, it's gonna go different path. At some point you're gonna have to make a decision. Is this path gonna work for me and my kids, or something else? And so when I made that decision, when I came to the US, I didn't know a lot about the US. And so everything was under his name, the business. And so when we decided that we're gonna separate ways,
Yeah.
everything was cut off. The bank
Right.
account,
Everything was cut off. You had
and
no access to anything.
exactly.
Yeah, that's the
And
part I wanted to bring up, because here's another hurdle. You're moving towards your greatness and yourself and your freedom and really living your greatest life, and you think you're doing all the right steps, but then you still had another battle to overcome there.
yes,
Because you got completely cut off from everything financial, everything.
yeah. So I got cut off there, and when I met Paul and I was sharing with him, this is what's happening, and he was like, when are you gonna like make a decision to change? And that's kind of like a question that I'm like, you know what, that's kind of right. And so even then, that was very tough, right? Because nobody should have their children taken away from them ever. That's a pain that nobody should ever have. And so when you get into that situation, okay, this is what the situation, what can I do now to move one step forward? And so I did Uber. I Ubered, and while I was also going to school for culinary, and yeah, so I'm a culinary dropout. That
Okay.
apparently
I think
yeah, exactly. That is not
why
my
you and Paul
path.
cook so
Yeah,
much. Yeah,
exactly. So that
yeah.
wasn't my path.
Okay.
And then I did the computer software engineering,
Oh.
and still wasn't
Yeah.
my path. I mean, I love computers and I love doing that part, but I think that, it just led me to this path, and it wasn't like I just came out, like I just met Paul and it's like, voila, this is it. We had to work through a lot
It
of
was a
things.
struggle. Yeah.
Yes, and I resisted a lot of his ideas
Mhm.
because remember, he knows the KW system in and out. Like he knows what
Oh,
life.
yeah, her husband Paul has been a team leader, productivity coach, all the things, right?
Yes.
So,
So the things that I didn't know, he would bring it up to me and I was like, that's not gonna work, so I was resisting a lot of things.
Okay.
One of them was traveling. To me, it was like an expense, just traveling is an expense. And I want to save my money, but even though we were scraping dollars, we went on a cheap trip to Disney with my kids, or like, and eventually, because I'm like very kinesthetic, so I have to feel. And then yes,
things,
so then eventually I saw a different world. Like
Wow.
this is not the world. I grew up in a different world, completely opposite from this world that I'm trying to create. And if I didn't go travel, I probably would not have. And I'm so grateful that Paul like brought me there. And I'm very lucky. I really am, for having him. It's not easy though, but it's never easy.
Never is.
Yeah, it was
It never is.
easy.
If it's worth it though,
Correct.
and I think it's worth it with you guys. So yeah.
So
he's a big advocate of yours too. I know it makes her uncomfortable because he'll post these things like, my wife, he's a big advocate of yours. But think about that though. You met him when you were ready to meet him. Right? You're a different person. You're becoming already a different person. And that's normal when you meet somebody and you come in another world and they're like, you can't, people have to self-discover things, right? You can't force it. And then when they're ready, then they're going to be ready. And so he got to see when you're ready you can't go to a class where Jan Lee's there and she's not in front center. Am I right?
Center.
Am I right? Front and center. In fact, she would go to Bold's. She would drive to Dallas. Well, number one, she loved the coach, but just to be smart about it, be in a room with who does a lot of referrals with Austin, Dallas. And just very purposeful and intentional. So when I look at you, I look at somebody that started out as a survival mode to now you're in that thriving mode, right?
Yes.
And I just think it's a beautiful thing.
The Dallas idea was really not my idea.
Okay.
So,
so
Paul,
I'm gonna give you credit.
yes,
Hey, Paul, good
Paul
job,
knows Michael, and
she's amazing.
A very
She's your coach,
fishbowl,
right?
and expired like lady. That's her thing. She was actually on the Shift book, Gary Keller's Shift. And so he's like, you're going to Dallas. I'm like, for what? For Bold. I'm like, okay, so drive 3 hours to Dallas.
7 weeks in a row.
Once a week. And I would wake up around 3:30, get ready, 4:30, I'm out the door.
So
and
you
I
drive
get,
just for the
yeah,
day.
yes, yes, yes. And then I get to Dallas by 8:30 and nobody's there. I'm the first one
You're the
there.
first one.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, so if anybody says Bold is 45 minutes down south, I'm like, no, you haven't driven,
Please.
you
Yeah,
know,
I
3
know. But
hours.
people have
And
reasons or results you choose,
correct.
right? And so, yeah.
So in the beginning, I was like, oh, why am I doing this? You know, it's 3 hours. It's so inconvenient. But at the end, like as it goes, I realized that, okay, this is the 3 hours that I can actually listen to all kinds of books. So I've listened to all kinds of books. And then when you get there, you're like, okay, why did I drive 3 hours just to not listen or not pay attention to this thing? So maybe, you know, for you, maybe one of these days you can put yourself in a very uncomfortable situation to where you have to play.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it just made you present, and so again, playing to win, right?
Mhm.
And that everybody on this podcast, I don't invite anybody who, in my opinion, does not have a playing to win mindset. So I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. And I just want to applaud you for who you are today. And you're just starting, by the way. I mean,
Mhm.
you're still becoming. You still have a lot, but that's the fun part, right? Because you
Yeah.
know you have your foundational, but now the next part is, what do I want out of life? What do I want to have achieved? Because you have so many skill sets, and yet you kept loving your heart. And like the egg, my point with the egg is you didn't become hard inside. You could have become
I
hard.
could have,
You
and
could have
yeah.
become hard and let your heart harden. And you found the right partner who challenges you and loves you, and you are there for each other. You know, let's talk about this year a little bit. I mean, this year you had some setbacks too.
Yes.
And
yes.
yet you capped in what, 5 months?
Yes.
And the year before it was 11 months. At Keller Williams, we have this thing called capping, and it's a big deal. And we get excited and we announce when our agents do, because they're awesome. And my dear, you did it in 5 months instead of 11. And what happened with Paul, if you want to talk about that a little bit, some of the challenge. Are you okay talking about
Yeah,
that?
that's
Okay.
fine. So my goal was actually to cap in August. So my
Okay.
cap month is July and my cap date was August. And that was our goal. End of July from a trip to from New Orleans. We were walking and he was having a hard time getting into the hotel for some reason. He was super tired and it was really a struggle, and I didn't think any of it, right?
Yeah.
And then we got home, and that weekend he was kind of like Paul has a very high tolerance for pain, same as myself. But this time it was more like, oh, this is not
Something's
good.
off.
Something's,
Yeah.
you know, something's not
Mhm.
working here. So I had like, we gotta go to the hospital. So we went there and we found out that he had a mini heart attack, because I don't have the term, but the levels were higher,
Okay.
which means that he had a mini heart attack.
Okay.
And then they found out that he actually had blockage in his heart. And
you needed like a double.
yeah, double at first they said triple.
First they said triple bypass surgery,
bypass
which is
surgery.
major, like as soon as possible.
Correct.
And it ended up being double.
Yes.
And
And
how
then
old is he? He's not old.
he's 43.
He's 43, a
Yeah.
young guy, you know?
Younger. And then when we did that, I was like, hey, you were complaining about your stomach area. Why don't you get that checked? And they found out he had a big tumor of colon cancer.
Yeah.
So that was back-to-back news.
Yeah. The heart and
Colon
they needed heart
cancer.
surgery, and he needed to be treated immediately for stage 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
colon cancer.
yeah. And when we found that out, I was there in the room, and I knew at that moment I needed to be the light. Like I needed to be this person. Because like you can't be there with them. You know, you can't be there, because otherwise you're not gonna go anywhere. You're all just gonna be feeling sorry for yourself.
Right.
So, you know, I decided I'm gonna be that light there at that moment.
Yeah.
And so
And you were the
so
light. And I saw how you would show up every day. You'd come in, you'd do your thing, you'd hustle, you'd take care of everything that needed to be taken care of, and then you'd be camping out at the hospital with him at the night. And you know, we had some conversations around that, and I saw you be the light to him.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate you for being there too. You know, the people that were checking up on me, the people that were, hey, how's it going? Anything I can do for you? That's the community we have with KW.
Yeah.
That's, you know, like I have a client that I constantly invite to our stuff,
Uh-huh.
KW, and just like, you guys just share like that, like you don't, why are they sharing that? I'm like,
Right.
because they want you to be successful.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people share because they want to have something in return, but our
Mhm.
KW system is not like that.
Yeah, that's that whole abundant living though, right?
Mhm.
Abundant
Yeah.
living is all about you just give, and you don't do it because you're going to get something in return. However, the reciprocity in life just kind of works that way. You'll get the most beautiful gifts at the most unexpected time, and so you're like, wow, that's amazing. You know, I wasn't expecting that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just and when you do it for others, I think about, you know, one of my guests when I first started the podcast, he said when someone has depression or they're battling something, when you get out of self and get into service. Chad Peavy said that.
Okay.
And he said, get out of self, get into service. Like you get out of your anxiety or whatever, you get into helping other people. When you get beyond yourself and your problems and your woes and all the things, it releases that. And so for you, here you are, the light, your biggest cheerleaders, you know, we're not really sharing how extreme that was. I mean, we didn't think Paul was going to make it.
Yeah, there were moments
we didn't think he
was gonna be different.
He didn't think he was gonna make it.
Yeah, he didn't think so.
Yeah.
But I was
You
like,
never
no,
give up.
yeah, no, no, I want to travel some more. We were supposed to do 50 states. We're only at 22 right now.
Okay, you got a lot
Yeah,
more
so
to
we
go.
still have a lot more to go. But that journey wasn't necessarily easy either, because you know, I would wake up 5 o'clock or 4:30 from the hospital. I gotta leave around 5:15, 5:30, so I can still get my pickleball 6 to 7, and then I take care of my dogs, and you know, and then get ready and come back to the hospital and work there. Yeah. And it's not like, you know, I have the whole bunker there. You just make it work because the doctors come and you just gotta make it work. Because the thing is, like, if I was gonna like not keep moving, we're gonna be stagnant. So you know, when you create energy, you're gonna be somewhere.
That's right. And it always good comes out of that, right?
And I was working in the hospital, still working 2 businesses, and then I would go home in the afternoon and take care of the dog. So that kind of happened for about a week or something.
Yeah.
And
while he was having all these different surgeries and stuff.
Yeah.
And you think about that. So what that was like right when you reset, right? It was like summer. It was end of July.
Yeah, end of July.
End of July,
beginning of
right?
August.
And so you had a goal to like cap really fast, and you still capped though with all of that. You still did it like in half the time you did the year before in a more challenging market. Yes. And so I just want to acknowledge you for how you show up in the world, how you show up for your husband, how you show up. Girl, you got a lot of fans out there. You are a loved lady. How you show up, you just play all in. You play all in, and that's going to reward you greatly on your journey. And I'm sure you feel like in a better place with yourself because you're figuring out who you are, and you're living a big life right now.
Yes, I'm so grateful. And you know, if you really think about it, it never happened overnight, right? So when here's the thing that I want to kind of bring to the attention of my friends is that when the market was really hot, when everybody was you know, doing deals left and right, and I was actually listening and transcribing scripts. I would listen over and over and over until I internalize it. One, I have an accountability partner that if I take a shortcut, he's not gonna be happy with it. And so, you know, that's what I've been doing. And so now that it's a shifted market, when they said that the shift is happening, the first book I read was The Shift.
It's a great book by Gary Keller, Jay Papasan. Yeah. Highly recommend.
Yes. And I read because the people that I'm with right now, they don't have the experience yet, you know, or because they have a different path. Yeah. But these people that have a book, they've been there. And I learned from each other, like each of these people, not necessarily the book itself. I'll be talking to somebody, like a client maybe that loves a dog, you know, and I learned from that. It's like, wow, she has so much love for the dog. Like, how can I not love a dog like that, you know? Right. And so I learn from people that I come in contact with.
Well, because you're always watching and learning. Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, so the question I ask all my guests, and I don't want to skip it with you, is what does playing to win look like for Jan Lee?
So playing to win is actually being the person, the woman, the man, being in the arena, being in the field, doing things, making things happen, and you're gonna fall, and you're gonna like be muddy, and it's not gonna be easy. But when you're in the arena, you can control what happens, or you can have a say for your outcome. And it doesn't matter what the outcome would be in the end of it. If you win, that's going to be a big celebration, right? Because you earned it. And if you don't, like Wendy Papasan, and this is the reason why I go to different classes, because different classes will teach me different things.
For sure.
And Wendy Papasan said that if you are doing the activity of being a millionaire real estate agent right now, you technically are already a millionaire real estate agent. Right. And so playing to win is being in that field, doing the activity, and just being the person you want to be.
I love that. That's beautiful. And all of a sudden you look up and you've done all these things, and you're like, you realize that actually that is the life that you have because you are being that, right? Or they say be, do, achieve, be, do, achieve. It's not like you be and then you do and then all of a sudden you achieve. It's you be, do, fail, be, do, fail, be, do, and then all of a sudden achieve.
Yes, all of
but
a
it's
sudden.
that being in the arena and getting dirty and saying, you know what?
Yeah, dust it off.
It makes us more interesting. I think our scars make us more interesting, right? And so I love that. That's such a great answer. Okay, so what advice would you give for somebody? Because obviously you're a fighter, girl. You're a fighter in the best way, because you fight for yourself, and that's my favorite kind of fighter. It's you're taking a stand for your greatness. Everything around you was trying to define who you are and who you're going to be, and you said, "Oh, but wait, that is not the route that I'm going. Actually, I'm going to be that person that's throwing that party in that room instead of standing here on the outside of it, watching somebody else enjoy life." Like what advice would you give to somebody that's maybe feeling a little bit, because this has been an interesting year for a lot of people, right? A lot of people have struggled. COVID changed our world, all the things, I'm not trying to make any kind of external thing why, but what advice would you give somebody who's just not feeling it right now? You know what I mean? That's just not having success. They're doubting their worth, or they're doubting their value because you were in an environment where somebody was telling you that all the time, and yet you didn't believe them. Like, any advice for somebody that maybe is feeling that right now and maybe is discouraged or something?
For me, it's just more about like your why. Like everything I do right now is for my kids. Everything that I have like went through in my life are the things I don't want to happen to my kids. And so if you're not motivated, maybe find the reason why. Why, like who's your why? Like what are you supposed to do here?
Something bigger than you, right?
Something bigger than you.
And it comes back to like the getting out of self, getting into service. Like find something you're passionate about, right? And I think a lot of people struggle with that right now. And I see that there's a lot of people like you that are having these tremendous breakthroughs in their life. And I've known you for, I don't know how many years I've known you, but I've seen you peripherally from the outside when you would come in and you'd come to like Polly's Power Hour and all this stuff, like, and just show up, and man, you were always playing in. And I've seen though, just how you've evolved as a person, and it takes work, and it's not going to be overnight. And that's what I want you guys to hear is like, it doesn't happen overnight. Like everything, any overnight success is not an overnight success. It's like that picture of the ice, what is it called? An ice, what is the iceberg?
The tip of the iceberg. Yes.
An iceberg, right? You think about the top and then all that stuff under the water, and that top is like success and all the things, but what they don't see under the water is the pain and the struggles and the defeat and the failures and all the work that you put into it. And yet to get to that top, all you see is the top. And so I think it comes back to, we talk about this in Bold, like don't compare your insides
to other people's outsides,
right? And so you look at, your chapter where you're at, your story is very different than the chapter I'm in mine, and the chapter Jen is in hers. And it's really important, because I think comparing yourself to others is like, will just shut you down unless you let it inspire you. And that's why I have people like you on my show to inspire people of what's possible. Like, you do not have to accept what's going on in your life right now. You have a choice, and you make choice after choice after choice after choice. And I don't know how many women or people in general move to another country, realize they're in this, situation they don't want to be in, and then have the courage to leave it. I mean, you didn't have access to your kids, to your money. I mean, it was start over time for you.
Mm-hmm.
God, today, thank goodness, it's a much different position, right?
Yes.
But it's the never giving up, and the not feeling defeated, not buying the stories other people wanted to tell about you, but creating your own story.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you're creating such an amazing story. What's the next part of your story? What are you most excited about?
So I'm working on gonna be a bold coach. That's because I love bold, and I think bold really changed my life. And I have done bold 8 times. And the first time was when I was in that divorce. I didn't really understand what bold was about. But then you just keep coming in, because different bold is gonna have a different message. Like, for example, maybe the first bold was about mindset, and then you work on your mindset. And the second bold would probably be about accountability, and then you work on being accountable. And so different bold experiences and I think I can touch so many lives by doing that. And I actually appreciate this podcast, because a lot of most podcasts are the people that already achieve like mountains, right?
Yeah.
But there's also the other side of people climbing up the mountain. And so I wanted to bring people along. Like, we can all climb towards that mountain.
Exactly.
And so that's why I appreciate this podcast.
I love that. And I love having people of all levels on this show, right? Because it's so important, because people don't relate to somebody, like they just can't relate sometimes to somebody that's a Tim Heil or Sarah Reynolds or whatever, right? And yet they failed a lot. Those people, they failed a lot. That's, if you listen to those, which both of those are previous guests on my show, is they have amazing stories of how they failed and failed and failed. But all of you, every guest I have has this survivor in them to like never give up. Like, you guys never quit. You can't fail unless you quit. And it's like some people give up right when it's about to get amazing. Right. And so, okay. So being a bold coach, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's my goal. And it might not take, as fast as I wanted. I'm going to get there.
That's amazing. I actually are listening, guys, all of our listeners from Bold and everything. So I can totally see that. I can see how you would thrive in that role, and just your story would impact a lot of people. I love that. That's your passion.
Yeah.
Yay, that's awesome. Okay, let me check the time here. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. Perfect. Okay, so as we wrap up, what do you think, like, the market has changed, it's come and gone, and not just to make it about real estate, but just in life in general. Like, is there anything that you're going to do differently moving forward than what you've done behind you? Is there anything, because the 3 things that I'm telling people, right? And I tell them, always come back. What, you stop, more, and get to, right? Those are 3 things. What things I need to stop doing? What do I need to do more of that would really impact my business for the better? And then what am I not even getting to? Like, when you look at that for yourself, is there anything you want to lean more into for your business? Is there anything that you're going to cut off of your business for 2024 and stop doing and do more of? Or is there something that you really want to get to that you're going to get to?
Yeah. So the book that Paul just gave me, and I'm listening to right now on Audible, is Your Future Self. It's the book about your future self. And the premise of the book is that, people are motivated by things if they see their future. Kind of like a goal, but it's more like your future self.
Okay.
So that's going to be something that I would do differently this year, is just acting to be my future self, like being already my future self. And so
the whole be to achieve thing again,
right? That's like, I can see like where I need to be or what I need to do.
I love it.
And that's exciting. So I'm very excited.
Okay, another question for you. What are you most proud of?
Oh, yeah. So one day, myself and my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, we were talking in the car, and I told her something about, hey, this is what I've done, like kind of like just transaction wise. And she said, Mom, that's amazing. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's amazing. I'm like, yeah. So I was so proud of that moment. Like, I lived my life to where I can like, I'm not trying to die really early. However, I see my life at the end of it, and what are my kids gonna say about it? Like, what are they gonna say at my well, not funeral. It's gonna be
your life celebration.
Yeah, celebration, because I'm gonna
Big
be
party.
I'm gonna be cremated. I don't want to
Okay.
be so it's gonna be like, and then people are gonna be stepping into that.
What would you like your children to say about you?
So my children, I would love for them to say that she did it. Like, anything is possible. Like, if she's doing it, there's no reason I can't do it. Yeah.
Your story's so awesome.
Yes.
You're so awesome.
Thank you.
And you can be proud of that. And your kids are already saying that, which is beautiful, because you're already living that legacy. You don't need to wait till then. She just told you in the car, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, right? Like, you're already living that with your kids. So how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm really
appreciate
proud of you.
you.
I'm really proud of you. Okay, last thoughts for the listener. Last thought on anything we didn't talk about that you want to share that I didn't ask you, or any last parting thoughts today for our awesome, amazing, best listeners in the world.
So I just want to say to everybody, just show up. Like, just show up. Like, if there's like, just show up in the office. If, to lead gen, for example, it took me 2 years to lead generate, like, truly love lead generation. Like, Paul Campanaro was our former team leader, and there was like a series of like computers with where you can lead gen, and his office was right there. And then he would come out of that office. So what happened was he was doing power hour.
Yes.
So we would do role play from 8:30 to 9, and then 9 o'clock to 11 you're supposed to lead gen, right? And I didn't have the confidence, because if you grew up just being, felt being like told, like you're not good enough, and then you show up to this arena of lead generation, and then I pretended for a while. Like, I pretended to call people, and I was hoping that they never answered. But you just gotta show up, because then apparently, like, after showing up so many times, you're like, why am I even showing up? And then you start changing your action towards it, right? So I would, like, when Paul Campanaro gets out of that room, I pretend to be on the phone. Yes, and I would pretend. And then I think one of the really, like I said earlier, right, there's gonna be moments in your life that's gonna like leave a mark in how you do things. So this guy, I was calling, and he was not happy because it was expired. And so I was like, man, that's not gonna be how my calls are gonna end. And so the next day I actually called him back. I was like, I need to overcome this right now, and I called him back. He didn't even remember me. Yeah, he didn't remember we talked yesterday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so that, just show up. Yeah. Just show up. That's what it is. Just show up. Be the person in the arena.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yes.
Be the person in the arena. I think that's what I'm going to name the podcast episode.
Nice. Okay.
Be the person in the arena. That's really good, you guys. I know for sure. Let me see if there's any comments in here that we need to address from the live. Oopsie. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that, everyone.
It's okay.
I can edit all this out later. We got some people on the live. Let's go back to that. Melanie. Moving too quickly. Okay. Let's see. We've got, Paulie's on there. Okay. So just hey, how come you didn't tell your accountability partners this is where you were this morning?
Yeah.
Okay, busted. Got you, Kim. And then wow, never too late. I will play to win. Jan Lee's such a strong woman and fun with it. Yeah. And then, okay. And then Paulie, you're watching. So shout out to Paulie for listening. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate the entire KW. Like, I love KW. Like, I really do. It's you just gotta plug in into this into KW. You just gotta show up. That's it. Show up. Just show up, and people will show you, and you'll find a way. Yeah.
You can't win a game if you don't get in the arena.
Exactly. And you seek, you will find.
That's right.
If you knock, the door will be opened. You just got to do it. Yes.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Jan Lee, for being my guest. Thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next week. We have Cody Wickham on the show.
Interesting.
It's exciting. We're super excited about that. And keep listening. Go check out the Second Half podcast. If you're watching on the live right now, you can get it at any of the download place, but it's called The Second Half with Melanie Kenneman. And this will be going out next month sometime. So
awesome.
thank you for
Appreciate
listening.
y'all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Yes.